I'm Susan Skedd, and I'm a historian who's interested in the history of education and of the heritage movement. I first came across Chubb really in a footnote or two in Histories of Stonehenge, and it was only after I was asked by the dictionary to write on his life that I realised what a remarkable man he was and how really he deserves to be better known. Cecil Chubb was born in the village of Shrewton, which is very close to the Stones itself, just 4 miles away in Wiltshire. And he had a very conventional upbringing. His father was a saddler and harness maker. His parents really were of modest means, and he was sent to the local village school. He then went on to Salisbury, where he studied at the local school and actually became a teacher there. But I would say that Chubb's life changed when he met his future wife, Mary Finch, who was the niece of the owner of the local mental hospital in Salisbury, Fisherton House. Some years after their marriage, she inherited the hospital, and Chubb played a major part in running the hospital, actually working very closely with scientists of the day to develop new medical treatments, and interesting in the context of today, supervising a system whereby some of the inpatients could actually go back to their families for certain periods of time. So he was quite an innovator in there, but it was almost as this was a sideshow to his main contribution, which was, of course, in purchasing the stone circle at Stonehenge. The stones had been put up for auction by the Antrobus family, which had owned them since the 1820s. The estate agents in Salisbury had to move to the theatre to hold the sale because there was so much interest. And Chubb, it is said, just happened to be passing. And he put up his hand and bid £6,600 for lot 15, Stone Circle and Downs, and was successful. And it was clear he had an immense personal affection for the stones and was not alone amongst the local people of Shrewton and neighbouring villages. They treasured the stones greatly and regarded them as much their own as belonging to the landowner who actually possessed the land. So Chubb was terribly proud when he bought the stones in 1915 and hoped that they would remain a treasured part of his family's possessions. I think it was the change of heart when he decided to part with them in 1918 came reluctantly to him, but he knew afterwards that he'd done the right thing. He does write about how he believes that the nation would treasure the stones, and that certainly has been proved the case. It's interesting that the affection and gratitude of the nation is shown at the formal ceremony that took place at the stones in 1918 when they were handed over in the presence of the press, local dignitaries and members of the Society of Antiquaries. So I think Chubb felt fated and knew he'd done the right thing. While researching the life of Chubb, I learnt an immense amount about what a fascinating life he'd had, so varied, and different chapters of his life. I think he was a very ordinary person who just believed that the stones were so important. As he put it, they were unique in the nation's history, that he felt he had to give them to the nation for their future preservation. The inclusion of Cecil Chubb in the dictionary, I think, presents a fascinating picture of the man himself and also a point in the history of the conservation movement in Britain. Because until 1915, when Chubb bought the stones, there were very few national monuments that were in public ownership, and it was by no means certain that they should or ought to be in public ownership. And I think the example that he set in making such a beneficent act set the tone for the many gifts that followed in the 1920s and 1930s. So all in all, I'd say that Chubb's entry will, I hope, enlighten people about the contributions that were made by private individuals as well as by the state to conserving our national monuments.